Today, we're going to be talking about acquiring to grow. I think people get really excited about the idea of acquiring to grow, and a lot of the people that pay attention to the content that we're putting out have already acquired at least one business. So they acquired the one that they're running. When we hear responses in our Facebook group or to our newsletter, it'll be first-time acquisition entrepreneurs, and I'll read things like, hey, I bought this business and they have 5 technicians and we're somewhere and we do plumbing or electric or HVAC. So, they've already been exposed to acquisitions and they got their first one. They're starting to get it under control and they're starting to try to imagine, how do we use this skill that I've learned, which is sourcing and buying companies, and use that more to grow. So acquisitions absolutely have a place in our path to growth. And it's really important to know when to do them, and maybe even more importantly, when not to do them. Like, when is the wrong time to do an acquisition? So as you're growing, really in that first 15 to 20 million, acquisitions can and maybe even should be a pretty big part of what you're doing, because you're searching for distribution. Right? You need as many people looking at what you're doing and as many people contacting you and in contact with you as possible. And acquisitions sort of speed up that process. And also because of the SBA and all the loan funding out there for small business acquisitions, it's kind of an easy way to do it, where you can just go buy a company and then you merge them together and suddenly you're a larger company. Jack on the show recently just did this, where he a little bit more than doubled the size of his business in like 30 days because he bought a company that was about his same size. So it's hugely impactful. So as on our journey of growth, the way we used acquisitions the most was to break through plateaus and get up to that 15 or so million of revenue mark. And that's where we basically stopped. So nowadays, I'm not even really looking for acquisitions. We'll do one if the right one comes across our desk. But most of what we were aiming for was just getting to scale. We wanted to get big enough that we could hire the right people, have functioning accounting, a functioning HR, a functioning marketing department, and that just takes dollars. And we found acquisitions to be the fastest way to do it. So that was the right time for us. A lot of people have used acquisitions under 5 million to break past 5 million. And I think that's fair game. That's what we did too. We acquired our way from 1 to 3, and then we grew a bunch up to like mid 4s, and then we acquired again. So we would have passed 5 organically, but acquisitions did speed up the process quite a bit. It bought us years. When are acquisitions good? They're good for when you're trying to break through a plateau where you're stuck and you need the next investment of overhead or infrastructure. So that could be 3 million, 5 million, 7, 10, 12, 15. Any of those are big inflection points where you have to then invest back into your business and prep it for the next stage. Now, when they're bad is a little bit more nuanced. So right now, our business is growing 70% year over year, and that's organic. Right now would be a very bad time for us to go try to acquire a company, because most of my energy and efforts every day need to be into building the team, driving culture, keeping the trains on the rails as we're growing so fast organically. And an acquisition would just be a distraction from that. Also, you can acquire too fast and too rapidly. So it takes time to digest an acquisition. So if you go and buy a company, it might take you 2 full years to digest the growth that happened from that company. Like, you're going to be playing in a new, different field. So, like I said, Jack just doubled, and now he's going to take 1 year to 2 years, most likely 2, learning how to run at this new size, because it was a step change. He broke through a plateau rapidly. There was no gradual thing there. And now he has to figure out how to run at this new stage. What do the HR systems look like? How do I recruit? What new positions did I not need at half my size that I need today? And how do I build job descriptions and accountabilities and reporting for those jobs? How do I hire managers and techs at this new size, and what does that look like? Do we have the right org chart? Do we have the right org structure? Is our pricing right? There's a lot of questions that come from acquiring, and one of the biggest mistakes I see, especially from acquisition entrepreneurs, is that we acquire too soon. We acquire too rapidly, and we move to our next deal a little bit before we should. So that's when and when not to acquire to grow. It's an awesome tool to have in your toolbox, but it is a very messy way to grow, and it's not the way that we're intending to get all the way up to 100. We'll probably do a few more deals between now and 100 million, but it's not going to be our primary growth tool. Thanks for tuning in to Owned and Operated, the podcast for home service entrepreneurs. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the like button and subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, feel free to reach out. You can find me on Twitter at @WilsonCompanies. I'll see you next time.